And then a few minutes later, the cooler door opens up for her drawer that she was in all on its own, which is where more of the spooky starts happening.
I think I would hate having a wall cooler just because I'd be
it's more work to get the body out.
Well, yes. I was thinking just for spooky reasons. I would
know. Like you get trapped in.
Oh, no. No, I wasn't thinking of that. Jess. No. Why would I crawl in there? What scenario would I be in the pod cooler? No, I just think if the door opens on its own for some reason, like if the door was broken and it swung open for some reason, I'd immediately just nope out of there and it'd just be gone. Now I'm thinking about being stuck in a body cooler.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to perform an autopsy?
Ever wanted to know how accurate your favorite crime drama is?
If you're brave enough,
join us inside the morgue. All right, everybody, welcome back to Inside the Morgue. We are so happy to be back and recording again after a long hiatus. Life and work have been busy. We're both planning weddings. We're both in each other's weddings because we're besties. We're not faking that for the podcast, guys.
I'm really committed to the bit.
We're really committed. We just really want our podcast to be popular, so we're like, fine, we'll be each other's bridesmaids. We'll pretend to be friends. And we're just getting back into the routine of doing things. And we're also really excited to announce, in case you didn't notice, we might sound different and we look different because now there's a video component to this podcast because we've started working with YUNKJunk to help us bring you guys the best content possible that we can, best episodes that we can. So shout out to our amazing producer, Dylan. And Dylan, if anybody's interested in recording at YUNKJunk, who do they reach out to?
You reach out to me, and it's really easy to do, actually. All you got to do is email me, Dylan, D-Y-L-A-N, at YUNKJunk.com. If you don't know how to spell YUNKJunk, just look right in the center top of the screen. It says it right there. Thank you, Alice.
Right there.
Well, thank you,
right
Jess. There we go. Awesome. Yeah, hit me up. We'll make something fun.
Yeah, that's what we did. That's why we're here. So to kick things off, since we're in October now, we have entered spooky season. We watched The Possession of Hannah Grace, a film from 2018 about a cop who had a tragic accident. So she takes the night shift at her local morgue. And why do all these shows, we've talked about this so many times, they always make the working in a morgue like somebody's last resort.
And it's so infuriating because it's not. It's not a last resort.
Some people dream of working in a morgue, which is literally us. And maybe
weird
people
dream, but okay.
So some people's nightmare, but our dream. Don't hate on our dream. It's always somebody's last resort. Like it's like a doctor who's like, I couldn't be a surgeon anymore.
A neurosurgeon.
We're looking at you, body of proof. Even though I do love that show. So in this movie, there is a spooky opening scene of an exorcism. The young girl, Hannah, is tied to a bed and unresponsive until a priest gets really, really close to her and she straight up headbutts him. Headbutts the priest and then just goes full demon contortionist. And I just want to shout out the actress.
Yes, I love her.
Hannah Grace.
Kirby Johnson. I follow her on TikTok. She's amazing.
Yeah.
She's hilarious.
She's so funny. And she does all that contortion-y stuff on her own.
She used to be a dancer, so all of that's just natural.
It's insane. It's so crazy. She's probably the best part of this movie, which honestly wasn't that great. But
I watched this movie and we got done and Dom was watching it. He was unwillingly watching it with me. And he was like, oh, how was the movie? And I was like, this was the okayest movie I've ever watched.
I just said I actually stole this from JD. JD of Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex, also of the Cult Pop podcast, recorded at YUNKJunk. Of all the movies I've seen, it was definitely one of them.
It certainly had all the components to a movie.
Yeah. So spoiler alert, obviously we spoiled the shit out of everything we watch. She absolutely murders one of the priests and starts on the other one before Hannah's father intervenes and suffocates her with a pillow. And just when you think she's dead, one of her fingers twitches. So we cut to Meg, who's our main protagonist, showing up for a job interview at a hospital. Her friend's setting her up with a job at the hospital morgue because things are just not going right in her life. And
she's like, you know what, you need the morgue.
You know what really cheer you up at the worst time of your life? Working in a morgue. So the doc is showing her around and says a few things like, you never get used to the smell. And from my experience, you actually do.
Yeah. As much like our interns are also like, oh, the smell's terrible. I was like, I don't even smell it anymore.
Yeah.
I don't really know what that says about me.
That makes me so self-conscious sometimes because I'm like, now I don't know if I smell. Like, do I just walk around stinking all the time and just not know?
I'm
my
just
nose
so
not
blind to the smells.
Yeah. Damn. So he also says a few other things, like you'll hear things go bump in the night. I do believe our morgue is haunted. We've touched on this. We both heard the same thing on 2 separate occasions.
And the other day I was there before you and I heard a bang and I was like, I'm walking the other way.
One time I heard a bang from inside the freezer.
Yes, that's what I heard.
No.
And I walked right past and I was like, that's not my business.
That's how you stay alive in a horror movie. It's none of my business. I opened to check because I was really paranoid. I was like, okay, what if one of my coworkers is stuck in the freezer? And I'm like, nope, not my business.
That would be me.
But no, nobody was in there. It was crazy. And the doc gives her a tour and shows her an incinerator.
And I thought that was really weird that this morgue had an incinerator because normally like funeral homes are the ones to have incinerators for cremations.
Yeah, we don't have an incinerator.
And because Dom was unwillingly watching this movie with me, he was Googling a lot and like fact checking things. And he was like, okay, it's in an old hospital. And that makes sense because old hospitals tend to have incinerators for whatever reason.
Yeah, hospital morgues are very different, I think, from like a forensic, like coroner's office, medical examiner morgue. Because a hospital autopsy is very different from a forensic autopsy. And I think we've touched on this a few times, but like for a hospital autopsy, you need consent from next of kin. And you already know the cause of death. You're
It's
just
more
doing
for
it.
research.
Yeah, you're doing it for research purposes. So interesting.
So yeah. I also really love that they were taking photos. So I give a huge green flag for this because we don't always see the tech or the doc taking pictures. And photos are like the most important part of the autopsy, I think.
Yeah.
Because everybody always goes back to look at the photos.
And they can be used in like trials and stuff.
Yeah. Everybody wants to look at the photos.
Yeah.
Interns, docs, attorneys.
Yeah.
And she was taking photos, like especially of all the injuries, which is really important to note. And I love that they do overalls and then close-ups of all the injuries because that's very accurate to our job. And that's exactly what we would have done.
And it's important to do an overall before you do an injury photo, because if you do like a close-up of a stab wound or something, say, you can't always tell where on the body that it's because it's just like a piece of skin with a stab wound in it. So you need to like do an overall
and
of
then
like say the leg and then show.
And then a close-up.
I also love that we're doing video now because I talk with my hands a lot and now you guys can see it. Because like usually I have to like describe, be like, okay, now there was one time I was like pretending to be an octopus or something. I forget what we were talking about, but I was like, I'm doing octopus hands right now. Now you guys can see it.
You see how awkward I am on camera.
You're doing great. You're doing great, sweetie.
So like the standard photos that we would take for an autopsy is just standard like as is pictures. So like when we open up the body bag, we do a set of 3 pictures, just however the body is, and then we'll take their clothes off, and do a set of clean pictures. We'll do an ID shot, which is like we really like clean up their face. We'll kind of put a nice background on underneath them and kind of make it look like a driver's license photo.
Yeah, that's our references.
Because our office that we work in, we don't allow people to come in to view their loved one. We encourage them to go to the funeral home for that. So if they do want to view them, we'll just give them the photo and be like, hey, this is them. And then we'll do back photos and then any other photos that we think are necessary. But those really are the standard ones. And we always try to do it at a perpendicular angle so you can get right on top. So there's no questioning like, oh, it's on this angle and it's not really showing an accurate depiction of what you're taking a picture of.
Because we have a scale in the photo, and if there's something that we want an exact measurement on, we need it to be directly, like eagle eye view.
Yeah.
And I think Crime Scene Queens has also talked about that, because you have to do that for like crime scene photos too.
Yeah. Always got to be accurate with your angles.
Yeah.
And they also were doing fingerprints, which is really important, which we never see any of these shows do fingerprints.
Never show that. Yeah, we do fingerprints for everybody.
So
even if we know who
that
they are.
too. Yeah. And I literally, he told Meg, the cop now autopsy person, the intake overnight assistant.
Overnight intake assistant.
But he was saying to like push the knuckle out to help extend the finger. And I literally told one of our interns that the other day. I was like, push the knuckle out because then their finger will be straighter so you can get a print. Because when rigor sets in, your finger kind of like curls in.
It's so hard.
And it's so hard to break.
To break that rigor. Yeah.
So yeah, that was really cool. But moving on, they also had this really loud, annoying alarm when like an EMS or somebody would come in bringing a body in, and I wish we had that alarm, but I also don't wish we had that alarm because I would be hearing that in my sleep, just like I hear our call box ring in our sleep.
Yeah, we have, when somebody comes, we have like it's like a pleasant like alarm, like a little bell ringing, but we hear it so often it like haunts me. It's a similar effect to like
I always hear the phone ringing in my sleep too.
Yeah, if you like you're used to your alarm sound and then you hear somebody use it as like their ringtone and you're like, oh God, it's like it triggers me now.
Nightmares.
Yeah.
But so she goes to intake this body. It's her first body at the morgue. She's helping the EMS getting it out of the rig, and she takes it into the morgue. And one of the EMS ladies goes, you got to have the right kind of stomach for a job like this. And that is on my bingo card every single time I tell somebody that this is my job.
Yep.
Every time, without fail.
Speaking of bingo cards, we worked on an Inside the Morgue actual bingo card. We're going to post it on our Instagram for you guys to look at. And maybe if you guys watch an episode of a show and you're like, you know what, these tick off a few boxes on the Inside the Morgue bingo card, and you follow along and it does, shoot us a DM and let us know what show it is.
Show us your bingo card.
Show us your bingo card. Let us know what they got right and wrong, and we'll talk about it on the podcast.
I also really loved their camera because it's a little different than just how we use our camera. It's just like a manual camera that we walk around with. Theirs was like built on this rig, and it just stayed in one place, and you could move it to wherever the body was. You could slide it across.
It was like attached to the ceiling. You could like slide it over. So it was always at the correct angle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But then you always have to move the body to get to where the camera is, which is the annoying part of that.
I was thinking that too. I was like, wow, this would be really convenient. And I'm like, except for if you have to flip a body over.
Yeah.
As opposed to just like kneeling a certain way and getting the right angle.
Especially if you have to take pictures of tattoos, and tattoos are in weird spots.
Yep.
So Meg had been warned that all the lights are timed and on a sensor. So during her first shift, she's sitting at her desk, and then all of the lights go out. And this happens a lot in our hallway. And Alice and I have to jump around for the lights to like sense us because we're always too short to activate them, I think.
So short. So no, like we'll walk in the hallway and we'll be walking back and forth for a while, and I'm like, the lights still haven't gone on.
And then sometimes I'll just deal with it and walk in a dark hallway.
I'll just do the hot to go dance.
But that would happen at my old job too, at the body donation center. Like I would be sitting in the lab by myself, and the lights would go off, and then I'd have to like spin around in my chair for the lights to like figure where I was.
I'm picturing like the lights go off and you're in there alone, and then you just start like spinning around in your chair, and the lights come on, but somebody walks in and you're just like spinning in circles, and there's just cadavers all around you. And just like do.
Yes, that's accurate.
That's actually what happened. Great. I'm glad. So she starts doing her first intake. She takes her photos and her prints, and she puts the body in one of those stereotypical like pull out wall coolers. And the
bane of my existence.
I know, like I've never seen any of these in real life, but I think it's another thing that's more common in hospitals.
Yes, especially old hospital morgues.
Yeah. But the one thing that really, really irked me in this, all of the bodies just have like a sheet over them. Why are they not in body bags?
Put them in a body bag. What if they're leaking?
Ew. But yes, that happens. Put them in a body bag, and they're just like in the nicest white linen sheet, and I'm just like,
that's so not accurate.
No. Like they have to need a body bag, right?
That's a red flag.
They have to have body bags at the hospital.
The cheap ones, yeah.
Yeah, they do have cheap ones. So this is a possible red flag, because who doesn't put a body in a body bag? So Megan, like we said earlier, had an accident on the job as a cop. Her partner got shot, and she feels somewhat responsible for it because she didn't respond quickly enough or didn't react quickly enough to take down the perpetrator. And it's not really clear if he died. I'm assuming he did.
I was assuming he didn't.
Oh.
I always thought that he was just like her, where he got an injury and had to go somewhere.
He's at a different morgue.
He's at the morgue across town.
He's actually at the coroner's morgue. Not as a dead person, just as an intake worker, I guess. So either way, she has a lot of trauma from this experience. And so again, she chooses to work in the morgue, which I don't get.
I don't think that's the best place to deal with trauma either.
No, it definitely isn't. Speaking from experience, it's not. Definitely wouldn't recommend. But yeah, so her official title is an overnight intake assistant, which is not a position I've ever heard of, but everything she's doing is kind of like what we do. Like when we first, besides like the initial intake and like measuring and weighing, that's the transporter does that.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some offices where the autopsy tech does it all.
Yeah.
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 But you know how we feel about when somebody has an accident and they stumble into a job in the morgue that they just settled for. Hate it. So spooky things start to happen. The intake bag alarm goes off, and there's this creepy man trying to get in, but thankfully Megan doesn't let him in.
Yeah, thank God.
Can you imagine if she's just like, okay, this creepy man's like banging, like, let me in.
She's like, I'm new here. You must work here.
Yeah, first night on the job. Well, he does try to do that.
Mm-hmm.
He does try to say, hey, I work here. I forgot my badge. Let me in. She's like, no.
She's like, I'm not falling for your shit.
I'm not. So after that scary interaction, she does call security, and security's like, yeah, this happens a lot. I'm like, why?
You should be better at your job then.
This is your job. Why are you stuck at it? So then the alarm for the bay goes off again, and it's an EMS person with a body. And this transporter guy is so obnoxious.
I was furious watching this because I was like, bro, if this is your job.
Yeah, he's trying to basically guilt Megan. So Megan's whole thing is she's not supposed to leave the building at all. And so she stays in the building while she unlocks the door for them. The transporter comes in with the body, and then she helps them from there. But this guy's like, come on, you got to come out here and help me with this body. Like, if you don't, the body's going to decompose and rot and blow up like a pufferfish, which that doesn't happen.
That would never happen. She was also like 100 pounds, so you could definitely handle that.
She's like the tiniest body. It's Hannah Grace's body. And she's like the tiniest body. And he's
like, oh,
he's guilt tripping her.
No.
But yeah. So I also liked the analogy, though, of blowing up like a pufferfish.
Because that's really accurate.
As when somebody decomposes and they're in the bloat stage.
My least favorite stage
that
of
is
decomp.
The worst stage of decomp. Give me a mummified body any day over that. Like, it's the grossest. But yeah, he said that. I'm like, all right, you suck, but you know what a decomposing body looks like. So yeah. She does eventually get guilted into going out to help, and then the creepy man from before gets into the building and into the elevator. Did she see him or did he sneak in?
He sneaked in, but she saw the elevator door close. So then she was like, okay, I think he got in.
Did she do anything about it?
I think she tried to look for him, and then he like,
or was she just like, I'm minding my own business?
Maybe she was like that, but toward like later in our notes in this movie,
yeah,
they confront each other.
Yeah. The transporter tells Meg that this body was found in an alley while, quote, some guy was still slicing her. This wouldn't go to a hospital.
This would go to the coroner.
This is a coroner case. This wouldn't go to...
Are they treating this hospital as the Emmy?
Oh, yeah, because it was filmed at an old hospital, right? Or is it supposed to be... No, it's a hospital morgue. It's a hospital morgue.
But are they treating this... Am I having a revelation now?
You're like, wait, I actually love this movie.
No, I don't. Don't put words in my mouth. I think that they think that this is the ME and not a hospital.
You think the transporter thinks that?
I think the entire movie thinks that.
The entire writing team. Yeah. I think they are treating, because it's definitely a hospital, because her friend who got her the job there is a nurse.
Yeah.
But maybe, so there are some offices that don't have their own facility will work out of a hospital.
Out of hospitals. That's true.
So not giving it a total red flag.
Just a really shady one.
Really half and half. It cancels it out. It's just a half and half. So, and the guy who we're assuming is, spoiler alert, Hannah Grace's dad, ran off, but he hasn't been found yet. So the transporter also says that they found chloroform by the body, and chloroform is just, I feel like everybody's heard of it, is a clear liquid that is used as an anesthetic to reduce pain during medical procedures, or was used as a, yeah, no, they don't use chloroform anymore. Can you imagine? No, this isn't like the mid 1900s. Yeah. No, they just use anesthesia now. You know, just chloroform before a procedure.
Chloroforming everyone.
No, they don't do that.
I hope they don't, yeah.
So she opens the body bag to take all her pictures, and it looks like the body was partially burned, and the toe tag says Hannah Grace, because that's what her ID said. So she wasn't so severely burned that she wasn't facially recognizable.
She was still very facially recognizable.
Yeah, but in burn victim cases, a lot of the time they aren't recognizable, or even not just burn victims. Like if there's like other situations where they just aren't facially identifiable
When
and it
they're
doesn't
super decomposed.
Yeah, and it doesn't match their ID, we have to go through other routes of positive ID. So say she wasn't facially recognizable, but she had her ID on her, we'd call that a tentative ID, and we'd have to go through scientific routes of finding a positive ID, which could be fingerprint matching, dental records. And if we have a tentative ID, it's easier to find dental records because you need to know who the person is to find dental records. That's something that also irks me. They didn't do it in this, but they're always like, oh, a Jane Doe, just run the dental records.
What records?
I know, we need to know what
Where
records.
are you getting them from?
Yeah, we need to know what records to run our dental exam against. There's not like a system with everybody's dental records in it. You need to know.
That'd be really cool if there was.
It would be great, but there isn't one. We need to know like what dentist to call and be like, hey, do you have a patient named Mr. So-and-so? Can we see his exam and his x-rays to compare?
And then I feel like our last resort would be DNA. So like, if we do have a tentative ID, we can find family. They can submit a DNA swab. We'll get a DNA swab from the body and then send that out for comparison.
Yeah. But I will give them, I was almost going to give this a red flag because she was burned, but her face wasn't really burned. So she was facially recognizable based off of her ID. So when Megan goes to take pictures, things start to get weird.
Yeah. Her camera like doesn't really, it's not working properly. She's trying to take a picture and it's just like flashing, but it's not saving a picture. So she's getting frustrated.
Next time the camera doesn't work in the back, I'm going to be like, it's Hannah Grace. It's Hannah Grace. She's here.
But like side note, I will say that Hannah Grace's wounds look pretty realistic to me.
Yeah. They didn't
the cuts and the slashes.
Yeah. She has a slash all along like her, like.
The coloring was pretty accurate.
The deep red. It wasn't like a fake red, like corn syrup red.
Bright red. Like Nightmare on Elm Street.
Like Nightmare on Elm Street. I love that movie though.
So yeah, even like her burns and her charring on the body, like that was good. So I'm going to give a green flag for that.
Yeah.
And then I'm also going to give a green flag for when Meg starts to fingerprint her body and take all the pictures because that's accurate to our job. And we love to see it. So again, like while she's trying to upload the prints that she's taking, there is an error in the machine. They can't get uploaded into the system. And this is just like when all of the spooky shit starts happening.
I'm going to constantly, when something goes wrong at work, I'm going to blame it on a ghost now.
It's going to be the ghost.
I'm going to be like, guys, it's the ghost again. No, Alice, you just suck at your... No,
it's the ghost. It's just a technical error. Nope.
Alice, you just messed up. No, it's the ghost.
So she tried to keep going with everything like she's supposed to, and then she finally puts the body in the wall cooler. So like, what a classic. We see it in every single TV show, movie where there's an autopsy scene. There's always a wall cooler.
I do want to see one in real life. I do think they're kind of cool.
I want to go to every single morgue around and tour them to look for these.
Just call them. Like, do you have one of those crazy wall coolers that I see in all the movies? I want to see it.
But more importantly, what is this body bag that Hannah Grace is in? Because it's basically see-through.
Yeah, I don't know why.
And that irks me the entire time, every single time it came up in a scene.
It's got to be like a horror movie thing because they have it in Nightmare on Elm Street too, which we just talked about. In the first one, Nancy's friend Tina, who gets, spoiler alert for Nightmare on Elm Street, I guess, murdered in the beginning. Whenever she sees visions of her, she's in like a clear body bag. But it must just be so you can see like the gore and stuff on camera without having to open the bag. But like logistically, just think of, like we would never have a clear body bag.
I would never want to look at that.
We look at bodies every day. That's our job, Jess.
But like it's weirder when you can almost see them through the body bag, I think.
Yeah. I know. It's just such a weird
it's such a weird concept.
No.
That's almost as bad as reusing body bags.
Oh my God. They did that in, what was it, CSI, that show that we watched where they were like recycled. They're like, oh, get a new body bag for this one. And I was like, what do you mean for this one? You should get a new body bag for everyone.
Do you remember the case that came in recently from a funeral home and there was a different toe tag or something at the bottom of the body bag? And we were like, wait, did we pick up the right body? And then we called the funeral home and they're like, oh, sorry, we reused a body bag.
Yeah, that was sketchy. I didn't love that. It
was so weird. But yeah, you're definitely right. This is a horror movie trope for the see-through body bags. Yeah. I've just never seen a clear one. We have white, black, and orange ones at our office. So while loading Hannah's body into the cooler, things start falling off the shelves. There's glass breaking. Megan goes to clean it up and she accidentally cuts herself. And before bandaging herself up, she puts Hannah's body fully away and gets blood all over the body bag.
Like her own blood from the cut.
On top of the body bag. And then a few minutes later, the cooler door opens up for her drawer that she was in, all on its own, which is where more of the spooky shit starts happening.
I think I would hate having a wall cooler just because I'd be
It's more work to get the body out.
Well, yes. I was thinking just for spooky reasons. I would hate it. It just seems spookier.
Like you get trapped in.
Oh, no. No, I wasn't thinking of that. Jess. No. Why would I crawl in there? What scenario would I be in the body cooler? No, I just think if the door opens on its own for some reason, like if the door was broken and it swung open for some reason, I'd immediately just nope out of there and it'd just be gone. Now I'm thinking about being stuck in a body cooler.
Sorry, we've claustrophobic.
We've talked about this before. My worst fear is being buried alive or like in a tight space. I think it was like episode 3. We covered being buried alive and like we did the math for how long you'd live in a coffin, and I still think about it. It's horrifying.
I'm sorry I brought it up. We'll move on. So the creepy dude who broke in, who we're thinking, and we know it's Hannah Grace's dad, he is trying to steal the body. So Megan is kicking his ass and they're doing this whole fight scene, and he gets away and he's trying to put the body in the incinerator. Also, the flames are just like popping out of the incinerator, which would never happen.
That's not up to code.
That's not how an incinerator works.
OSHA would have a field day.
The doors have to be closed before the fire starts.
Oh, yeah. For reasons like this. In case you're trying to incinerate a possessed body, you have to do it safely.
Yeah. Follow OSHA guidelines.
OSHA, sponsor us. Do they sponsor people? I don't know. We're really into PPE. We talk about PPE all the time to the point where people make fun of us. Very into safety.
We just love OSHA.
They should love us.
But he's like trying to drag the body into the incinerator, and then security comes and they get Megan up, and the creepy guy says, you need to destroy the body. It's not dead. And we know from the blue eyes that she has, she doesn't have blue eyes. She has brown eyes, which is what her driver's license has.
Mm-hmm. But the
demon has blue eyes.
The body has very vibrant blue eyes.
So the demon's still in her. And her dad tried his best to kill it, but he just couldn't because this demon was like, I'm not going down without a fight.
I got to shout out our notes at this point. So Jess and I share a Google Doc for our notes. And she just wrote when she was watching the movie, the body moved, all caps. And I'm like, I love that.
So we left that in.
So yes, left that in.
The body moved.
As a matter of fact, it did.
And it groans, and Megan gets freaked out, and she tells her friend who's a nurse about it, and the nurse is like, oh yeah, that's normal. So we got to give a green flag because that actually does happen. Corpses can expel air if they're moved. It's like their last gasp of breath, basically.
Yeah.
We hear it sometimes.
Jess is always like, sir, can you not?
It's really creepy.
And there was one time we were in the back, and I was with an intern, and we were trying to move the body a certain way to get a picture, and I kept we had to break the rigor, which is really hard to break. And so we were trying to like move the arms, and the body kept groaning, but I thought it was the intern groaning. So I was like, she's really struggling. Like and I kept being like, are you good? Are you okay? So and she's like, yeah, why? And I was like, okay, just checking. And then she realized like 2 minutes later, like, oh my God, did you think that was me? That was him. And I was like, oh, it was just like, like, are you good? Like, it was the weirdest noise. I was like, do you need to sit down? It was bizarre.
Take a breather?
Yeah. You shouldn't be straining yourself, please. It was so crazy.
Oh my gosh. But then, so her ex-boyfriend, Andrew, comes by to check on Megan.
Who's also a cop.
He is a cop, and they met, I think, while they were cops together. They have a whole history that we're not going to get into because it's not important to the storyline at all. It adds nothing.
We're only giving you the facts about possession and forensics here.
We're giving you the most okayest movie here.
We're giving you the most okayest review of the okayest movie.
So he was like, oh, I heard about the attack. She says she's okay. She's staying the night at the morgue. And then he asks her to help. Oh, she asks him to help run Hannah's prints because they weren't working on her system. So she's like, oh, use your system at the station and run them. Because she thinks that Hannah's ID is fake based on the eye color. Because since the colors don't match. So a security guard is covering for Megan in the morgue while she talks to her ex-boyfriend cop, and he hears a ball bouncing and he follows it, which I would never do because I'm minding my own business.
We say this all the time. Mind your own business in the morgue. Unless you think your coworker's locked in the freezer, and then maybe do something, but
even still, I wouldn't take a risk.
Jess would leave me in the freezer. It's fine.
If I didn't know where you were, maybe I would check.
We have to come up with a secret knock so that, like, if I get stuck in the freezer, I knock a certain way, you know it's not a ghost. So he follows this bouncy ball and it takes him into the autopsy room where the cooler is. And he hears scratching on the inside of the cooler wall thingy. And he opens it and finds it empty. Just an empty body bag is in there. So he sticks his head in. Why? I don't freaking know. Why would you do that? And then he's grabbed by Hannah Grace because he stuck his head in there. See, this is what I would
What
never
did you think
do.
would happen?
Obviously. You're going to get dragged in by a demon.
He's dragged into the cooler wall and she killed him. And this is why we don't have these cooler walls.
That's exactly why. Because a demon might kill us.
A demon might get me. And Alice doesn't want to get stuck in it.
Oh my God. So Meg returns and can't find Dave, who just got killed in the horrifying wall cooler. And she goes to the bathroom and hears someone come in and calls out to see if it's Dave. No one answers, but then the same rubber bouncy ball that she's been like, she uses like a stress ball. So this is like Meg's ball that she's had at her desk, and it like rolls under the stall. And then the creepiest this was a good jump scare. I will give that to this movie.
This movie did have a lot of good jump scares.
Yeah, and
that was the
just
only thing it had.
Really creepily quickly just like reaches in and grabs the ball back. And it's like this black decaying burned hand, which we know Hannah Grace has. So Andrew ends up running the prints, and it turns out Hannah Grace has been dead for 3 months. So clearly the body they have in the morgue, gasp, I know, she doesn't look like she's been dead for 3 months. So Megan looks up Hannah's name and sees that she was killed during an exorcism and that her family said the Catholic Church claimed she was possessed. But I want to know, did the article say if anybody was like charged?
I think that they were looking for the dad because they think the dad has
he's
something
on the
to do
run
with
and
it.
he's hiding in the morgue somewhere. Got it. That's
the
right.
creepy morgue with his creepy daughter.
Yeah. It's a creepy family. So Megan goes back to look at the body and the cut marks are gone. It looks like they've healed themselves. So, but I will give a green flag though, because the way the body was positioned this time, I noticed skin marbling on the leg.
Yes. Which is really cool because they don't always show that either.
Another really early sign of decomposition is called skin marbling. And it's basically, we've probably talked about it before, but in case you're new here, it's when the bacteria spreads through like your blood vessels. So you get like really dark and discolored vessels in your body. And it literally just looks like marble, like tile, like on your skin. And it's really crazy to see it in person. And they did it pretty accurately. In here, it turns like a greenish bluish and then eventually like a purplish greenish color. And until your whole body just decomposes in a super unpleasant way. So Meg goes through the security footage of the morgue and sees a shadowy figure that she thinks looks like Hannah Grace.
It's also creepy. Is this like crawling around on the floor?
Yeah. And there's a part where she's like trying to show it to somebody. It's her friend.
Yeah,
and,
the nurse.
And the nurse. And she's just like, okay, do you want to go get food? She's like, no, it's a ghost.
She's like, the nurse, you put her in this position.
She's like, okay, it's like 3 a.m. here. Do you want to go get something to eat? It's 3 a.m. You got attacked earlier tonight. And now you're looking for ghosts? Let's just...
You need a coffee.
This is her first night, right?
Yeah.
Of course. Of course. This only happens on your first night in the morgue. This is how my first day in the morgue. I've never worked a night in the morgue. And I'd never want to.
This is how everyone's first day always goes.
Yeah, exactly. It's just standard.
Just more
you just gotta get through it. And then you're good.
It's like a hazing.
Yeah. So as the movie goes on, a lot of, your standard creepy possession stuff just happens. There's like Megan's friend is like, it's okay. You just need some sleep. Megan's friend is like going up like a really spirally staircase. And then you just see Hannah Grace like scaling the staircase, like catching up to her. Yeah. And it's horrifying. It's horrifying. And then she follows her up to the roof, possession style, and kills her. And just like, yeah, she
She like raised her up and
Raised
was
her
like
up and,
choking
like,
her.
Yeah, it's the same way she killed the priest in the beginning
Mhm.
with like almost made him look like a crucifix type thing, like broke his neck and like it very gruesomely just cracks all of his bones.
Mm.
If you've ever seen Stranger Things, season
Yes.
4, very similar to Christine. Is that the first one who dies?
Christy,
Christy.
wake up.
I don't like this. That's me the whole movie. So Meg is still in the morgue and the alarm goes off because it's the same transporter that was there before. He asks Meg for help again and she says she can't because she was literally attacked because a man ran in the morgue because he guilted her before. So she tells him about the night and shows him how Hannah's body seems to be healing itself. And he says there must be some explanation and warns her not to drive herself crazy. And he actually kind of was nice and he like... So another part of Meg's story is she's in AA and she's like a recovering addict.
Mhm.
And he like kind of shares his own story with that. And he's like, listen, when I was first in recovery, I thought I was going crazy too. Just like relax. Everything's fine. But then
Everything's not
I
fine.
know. We cut to a shot of Hannah Grace crawling in from the elevator. Why do possessed people in movies, they have to move on all fours?
And I think I was thinking about this too hard last night.
I'm so sorry you were thinking about this like as you're going to sleep. You're like, why did
Thinking
she
about
move
the
like
worst
that?
movie ever.
It's not the worst movie ever. It's mid.
It's a mid movie.
Yeah.
But I think like they don't have enough strength to walk. And I think they're like almost putting all of their weight down because I don't know, so they're like being weighed down in a sense.
I feel like that would take more energy. Have you ever
know.
done like a bear crawl in like a workout class?
Yeah, that hurts.
Dude, it hurts. Why are they doing this? But I
I
guess
also feel like they should walk like zombies.
yeah. I think it'd be really funny though if there's just a possessed person just like taking the elevator with like everybody else and just standing there like really just
being
politely
so
just like,
cash.
I'm like, hey, how's it going today? Can you press number 4, please? So Hannah kills Randy, who is this transporter guy, and Meg walks out to the parking garage, even though she made a whole big deal about not leaving.
And then she leaves.
And then she leaves.
She doesn't even follow her own rules.
Man. Well, I guess nobody's following the rules.
She's kind of like the only one there
Yeah. She is literally.
at this point.
People are slowly being picked off one by one. She can do what she wants. So Meg finds him and gets a call from her ex-boyfriend, Alex, warning her that the guy who attacked her earlier killed the cops that were taking him to the station and is just out on the loose now. And then this guy pops up at the hospital and grabs Megan from behind. And he drags her inside at gunpoint. And he tells Meg that Hannah is possessed and that the demon heals itself by killing people, which tracks with the wounds disappearing. So Meg says, this crazy man pointing a gun in her face is like, I believe you. Which, like, I would say that to a
I
crazy man
would say anything if somebody was pointing a gun at me.
for real. And he tells Meg that he killed Hannah during the exorcism, which is the scene we saw in the beginning, but that the body escaped the mortuary before the funeral. So they like picked a funeral home and everything, and then so
Missing body.
can you imagine that call from the funeral home? To like the family, like, hey,
a funny thing happened.
do you know where she is? She's supposed to be with you. Oh, I thought she was with you. Okay.
Wrong number.
Yeah. Wrong number. They just ghost him. Like, that'd be so insane. So they both go to burn the body once and for all. But Hannah comes to and kills her father by burning him alive, by throwing him in the incinerator.
The not up to standard for OSHA incinerator.
Did we already give that a red flag?
Now I'm going to give it a red flag.
I'm giving it another one.
Okay.
We're doing it. Give it that
Double
red flag.
downing on that red
Double
flag.
down on the red flag. Give it another one.
So the fire would never just be like flooding out. The doors have to be closed. So Hannah starts chasing after Meg. He shows up. Then Hannah is chasing after Meg through the morgue and crawling on walls and shit. Again, like super creepy possession things happening.
Yeah, if she has enough strength
She can walk
to
normally.
scale a wall, she can walk normally. That's all
Probably
I'm saying.
when she was in the elevator alone, she was probably just
She was
standing there
just standing
chill.
upright and she's like, oh shit, the door's open. I
Gotta get back to the
got a
character.
spider crawl really weird.
So Hannah catches up to her as Andrew gets inside. Hannah drags Meg's unconscious body away. And then Meg wakes up inside the cooler door, which is Alice's worst nightmare that I forgot
Actually,
about.
okay, it's not my worst nightmare. My worst nightmare would be buried alive. Because at least like if you're in the cooler, you can try, which what Megan does is like kick the door
Yeah.
open, bang the door open, do a secret little knock so that your coworker saves you from being in there and doesn't think that you're just a ghost. Yeah, but if you're buried 6 feet underground,
no chance.
who's going to get to you in time?
No one.
No one. That's another reason why I don't want to be buried when I die, just in case I'm not dead. Just in case.
That's why we have little bells.
Do you still do that? Jess, if I die before you, you have to put a bell on me. You have to put a bell on me.
So Meg kicks her way out of the cooler, and Andrew and the security guard come to help. Hannah kills the security guard, like her normal thing that she's been doing the whole movie.
Typical Hannah.
Typical. She is going to kill Andrew, but Megan grabs his gun and shoots her. So Megan kind of has her redemption line right now.
Her storyline comes
She's had her
full
whole
circle.
character arc.
Yeah. This one horrible night in the morgue has given her bravery to shoot a possessed girl.
So she shoots Hannah and then saves Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
And Meg finally drags Hannah into the incinerator, but Hannah like wakes up all of a sudden and they have this whole dramatic fight scene in front of the incinerator as the flames are like coming at them.
Yeah, no.
And her face would be so burnt. Dom was really mad at this part. He was like, these flames are so bad. She would be so burnt at this point.
She's even like pushing her arms into the incinerator to push Hannah in. I'm like, you would be so
You'd
burnt
be
up.
in so much pain.
Mm-mm.
But finally, at the end, Hannah officially dies. Thank God.
Mm-hmm.
And the cops come to save Meg, and she's just playing ball while she was waiting for them. She's like, I'm
the
over
haunted
this.
ball is just bouncing. Yeah.
So yeah, the world's okayest movie.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say, yeah, they got a lot of the forensic stuff right.
Mm-hmm.
OSHA would be mad at them, but
I feel like the movie was missing something, and I don't know exactly what it was missing, but I feel like if it had that something, it would have been better.
Yeah. The problem wasn't Hannah Grace. Kirby Johnson did great. She was a horrifying creature crawling on the floor.
And I think Shay Mitchell is like a good enough actor to like hold the whole story together. Maybe it was the writing of the movie that was like not it for me.
And I typically like this kind of movie. I typically like The Exorcist is one of my favorite movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like movies where it's just like one actor basically the entire time.
Mm-hmm. It reminded me of Autopsy of Jane Doe.
Yes, which was a stellar movie.
It was so good. So freaking good. Which we covered in, what was it, episode 19 and 20? It was our last Halloween episode. And it was so good. Yeah.
Go listen to that.
Yeah, go watch Autopsy of Jane Doe instead of this. Or you know what? If you really like Kirby Johnson and want to see her crawl around real spooky, give it a shot.
Too.
That was entertaining. So, because this episode clearly dealt with possession and exorcisms, we did a little research about the story and science behind exorcisms and alleged possessions. So did you know that as recently as February of 2018, which was like 6 years ago, 6.5, the Vatican announced that it was offering an exorcism training course.
I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in that training.
I just like... When I read this, I was shocked because like exorcisms just seem like such like, oh, that happened like way back in the day. And it's like, it's 2018. They were
people still think that happened.
Yeah.
No.
And so according to an article that we read in Psychology Today, written by Elena Blanco Suarez, PhD, titled The Power of Neuroscience Compels You. Stellar title. Such a good title for the paper. The paper overall was just amazing. We'll link it in our show notes if you guys want to read the full thing, because I'm going to give some snippets, but the whole paper was great.
Can I say? So
yes,
I was in Kirkland's over the weekend because I was going to Trader Joe's, and Dom found a cross and he like held it up to me because we watched this movie. So he was like, "Oh, exorcism," and I was like, "The power of Christ expels you," and he was like, "That's not it."
School. Get out.
He's like, "You were so confident, but that's not it."
You were so close though. I would have given it to you. You get points. You get a green flag for that still.
Thank you. A pity green flag.
So according to this paper, the Catholic Church alleged that there was an alarming rise in 2018, apparently, in demonic possessions, and therefore they were offering an updated exorcism course.
How nice for everybody.
Yeah. And apparently it happened in like the following April, I think. Yeah. So like 2 months later it happened. So you don't know. Exorcisms are rituals that are like have been performed forever. And They are included in many religions, and they are meant to force out evil spirits from people or even places. So like I said, many religions, including Judaism and Islam, have exorcism practices that are still carried out in present day. But the first official guidelines for performing an exorcism were outlined in 1614 by the Catholic Church in something I'm definitely going to pronounce wrong. Let's try. Everybody, it's been so long since I've pronounced something wrong in this podcast. Did you miss it? De exorcismis et supplicationibus quibussadam. Definitely not right, but it translates.
That was such a good try.
Do I get a pity green flag now?
Yeah.
Thank you. So it translates to of exorcisms and certain supplications. So in this, possession was characterized with erratic behaviors, altered personalities, erased memories, seizures, fainting, amongst other symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a rare autoimmune disease called anti-NMDAR encephalitis that has traditionally been mistaken for demonic possession. So this rare form of encephalitis is a type of brain inflammation caused by antibodies. So it's like an autoimmune response from your own body causing your brain to swell. And symptoms include fever, headache, and feeling tired. And this can be followed by psychosis, which presents as false beliefs or seeing and hearing things that just aren't there. So they can develop fast and range from flu-like symptoms to full-on seizures, memory loss, disturbing behavior, and abnormal movements. And if this disease is ringing any bells for anyone, it's likely because a woman named Susanna Callahan published an autobiography in 2012 called Brain on Fire.
Great movie.
I never saw.
Chloe Grace Moretz plays Susan Callahan, and she does a fantastic job at portraying her.
I heard it was fantastic. I have the book and I've been meaning to read it. We should do a book club.
Yeah.
We should do an Inside the Morgue book club.
Yes.
And I'm adding this to it. So she chronicled her hellish experience with this disease, and it was also made in a movie in 2016. So this disease is mostly diagnosed in women between ages 18 to 45, and it was found to be caused by an autoimmune reaction, typically associated with ovarian cancer, particularly teratomas, which let's talk about teratomas. How scary.
Teratomas are the creepiest thing I think that can even happen to your body.
I've never seen one in real life.
I've only seen pictures in textbooks.
I've seen pictures in textbooks and in class.
That's weird.
So if anybody doesn't know, teratomas are tumors that are made up of different types of tissue and can have hair, muscle, and bone.
They can have teeth.
They can have teeth.
Ooh, why?
The one I saw a picture of had teeth. And I was like, why are you showing me this? This is the scariest thing I've seen. So they occur most often in the ovaries of women and sometimes also in men. And they cause this. The cause of them is unknown. But it's like the type of germ cell tumor. So like your germ cell, like your sex cells, the way I'm not saying sex cells, I'm saying CELLS, guys. Get your head out of the gutter.
This is a podcast about science.
Yes, please. Stop being dirty.
I'm looking at you.
I don't know who you are, but it's you. Someone out there feels so targeted and just like hung up on us. The telephone call. Like, I hate you girls now.
Wrong number.
Yeah. So your sex cells, like in ovaries or testicles, that like the way they divide by meiosis as opposed to mitosis kind of makes them more susceptible to this, I believe. Yeah. So many patients weren't as lucky as Susanna and often ended up in psychiatric wards or were believed to be possessed. So exorcisms can actually worsen the symptoms of this disease and can prevent patients from receiving like a proper diagnosis and treatment. And do you want to get into our example of when this occurred?
Yeah. So there was a tragic example in 1976 from an Annalise Michael.
I think it's Michelle.
Annalise Michelle. See, we're all about mispronouncing everything on this podcast.
It's a tricky spelling.
She was a devout 23-year-old who suffered from epilepsy and severe depression, but it was thought that she was possessed. She underwent 67 Catholic exorcisms.
Yeah.
Right during the year before her death. Mm-hmm. She passed away from malnutrition, and her parents and her priest were convicted of homicide.
Mm-hmm.
She was diagnosed with epileptic psychosis, a temporal lobe epilepsy, and her symptoms included becoming intolerant of religious objects and hearing voices telling her that she was damned and would go to hell.
That had to be so horrifying.
That like that's just so traumatic to go through.
Yeah.
And everybody thinks it's an exorcism when really it's
She
Like-
believed it as well, I think. I think she tried, like, certain medications weren't working. So, like, I think she tried to go the medical route first, and then they went to the church.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's horrible. Horrible.
So after medications failed to alleviate her symptoms, her family sought help of the church. Most clergy turned them away, saying that she needed medical attention. But finally, her mother found a priest who believed that she was possessed. The priest, Ernest Alt, petitioned a local bishop, Joseph Stengel, who would eventually approve the request and grant another priest, Arnold Renz, permission to perform the exorcism. But it had to be done in secret, which is also super sketchy.
Yeah. It's just, they had to have known that people would, like, freak out if they knew that they were doing this to somebody.
She's like, no, keep it on the hush hush.
Yeah.
So the 67 exorcisms were performed over 10 months. During these sessions, she believed she was possessed by 6 demons: Lucifer, Cain, Judas, Adolf Hitler, Nero, and Fleischmann,
I think.
Fleischmann, he's a disgraced priest. I just love that Hitler happened to possess her.
I mean, I would assume
They were running out of options.
he's in hell. I would assume he's in hell.
So she broke bones and ripped tendons in her knees from kneeling so often to pray. A paper by...
Oh my
I know.
God.
'Cause, like, I can't even imagine, like,
That's horrendous.
her body going through this.
Horrendous.
So there was a paper written by a bunch of collaborators and details the importance of open discussion between clerics, neurologists, and psychiatrists for the sake of the patient so that they can get the help they need. And we got all of this information from a Psychology Today article titled "The Power of Neuroscience Compels You" by Elena Blanco Suarez, PhD, and edited by Jessica Schrader.
Mm-hmm.
And also an allthat'sinteresting.com article titled "Annalise Michelle and that shocking images from the exorcism of the real Emily Rose" by Gabe Paoletti.
Paoletti.
I
Gabe
can't read
Paoletti.
right now.
No, it's okay. And I would say we linked our references in our show notes, but I would use caution if you're going to look at the allthat'sinteresting.com article, because there are images of Annalise
that are disturbing.
They're very disturbing. And I was going to say something else. Oh, the reason they call her the real Emily Rose is there is another movie that you've probably heard of called The Exorcism of Emily Rose, which was directly based off of this story.
Okay.
And I've seen, and it's a very good movie. I don't know if we'll discuss it on this podcast because they more deal with the legal side of the aftermath of, like, can you prove this was actually a possession, or was this someone who was mentally ill and not getting the care that they need? Yeah. So that's a very good movie if you want to watch. I just don't know if they have enough morgue stuff for us to discuss on here.
But if you're just into, like, exorcism movies, since it's spooky season and almost Halloween, go watch that.
Yeah, it's a better exorcism movie than this one. So to end this episode, we tallied a total of six green flags.
I'm really surprised by that number.
I think we're just really excited to be back and we're being generous with this movie. And 2 red flags. So I guess the possession of Hannah Grace passes for forensic accuracy in our opinion. But hey, if you disagree or agree, let us know. Let us know if we missed anything. Yeah. So thanks for listening to our comeback episode of Inside the Morgue, or thanks for watching.
Yeah, we have a video element.
We have a video now. We're super excited to be back recording these episodes for you guys. We really love doing this.
If you can't tell, we're just super giddy.
We're super giddy to be here. We love being back. We love interacting with you guys. So please hit us up on social media. I know a few of you have DM'd us that you're excited that we're coming back because we announced we're working with YUNKJunk, and we're happy.
We're excited to bring you guys a lot more episodes and, like, just get back into it.
Yeah, and if there's anything specifically you want to hear from us, even if it's not like an episode, if you want to hear us play, like, Morbid Curiosity again, or another similar
we
game.
can do a dark tourism episode here and there.
Oh yeah, I love the dark tourism episode 56. Yeah. So thanks so much. You guys can listen to us on Apple and Spotify and on YUNKJunk's YouTube page, and we'll be back next week. Or not next time, not next week. We're doing every other week still. We'll be back next time with a brand new dissection. Bye.
YUNKJunk!